I'm gonna love you until you hate me. You should've known better than to mess with me, honey. I'm gonna love you, Black Widow, baby. Anyone remember that song?
I mean, do people remember Iggy Azalea?
Occasionally. Anyway, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to StillerBros at the Movies.
Yes, and today is a day that has been 2 years in the making. Well, it's been longer than that, but it's been 2 years in the making because we're seeing a freaking MCU movie in theaters again, guys.
Ladies and gentlemen, Black Widow.
This movie has been a long time coming, and we're going to talk about that in a second, but first we have to talk about some idiots who on Tuesday said something very fucking stupid.
So Stephen Dorff is an actor who's kind of famous, but you also need to be reminded who he is.
Yeah, he's one of those actors who always almost has a career to steal a joke from someone who we
probably shouldn't be stealing jokes from. On Tuesday, a statement from Stephen Dorff came out in which he said he was embarrassed for Scarlett Johansson for the fact that she was starring in a comic book movie because it looks like a crappy video game or something like that. Now, the problem with that is I went to before we left on this trip, because we were planning to have this little bitch fit, I looked on Stephen Dorff's IMDb page, and what should be on it should have come up about 10 years ago.
Around the time Scarlett Johansson started playing Black Widow,
Stephen Dorff was in a little movie that is best known for its 3 points on a Metacritic score. Bucky Larson, Born to be a Star.
So we got fucking Dick Shadow bitching about the fact that he feels embarrassed for the woman who not only has starred in multiple billion-dollar movies in a franchise and has a producer's credit and made $15 million off of just this one alone.
But we have him stating that he would never do a superhero movie, even though he's already done a fucking superhero movie when he did Blade, one of the Blade movies. The first Blade movie.
So as it stands right now, the second best Blade movie.
But stating he will work with the next Kubrick, which judging by your filmography, you are not fit to pick up a boom mic for the next Kubrick.
Whoever is fucking pretentious enough to call themselves the next Kubrick.
Anyway, on top of that, I'm also done with artsy film critic snobs who cannot get over the fact that Marvel movies are actually good. No, I'm not calling them high art, but art is fucking art, and you need to stop treating Marvel movies like garbage because they're not up to your standards. Why is it that movies like Captain Marvel and Black Panther are garbage to you, but a French movie about a guy sitting in the back of a limousine basically switching between SNL characters is somehow art? Oh, do you not like the fact that I was just minimizing Holy Motors for you? Well, how does that make you feel?
So anyway, Black Widow. This about 11 years ago. It would have been 10, but fucking pandemic.
Anyway, 11 years ago, a big-time star named Scarlett Johansson joined the MCU as one of the most well-known stars one of the most well-known stars in the Marvel universe.
Yes, Scarlett Johansson took on the role of Natasha Romanoff. She was a role originally going to be played by Emily Blunt, but we're not going to talk about Emily Blunt right now because she's got some stuff with the superhero movies that she's had.
But basically, Scarlett Johansson took on the role of Natasha Romanoff, and it ended up being one of her most iconic roles. Probably not because of anything transcendent she did with the performance, but just out of quantity of the roles. She played Natasha Romanoff in 2010. And then immediately played her when in 2012 went to play her in one of the biggest movies of all time.
She then returned in 2014 for Captain America: Winter Soldier, and then again in 2015 for Age of Ultron, and then she just kept
We're
appearing.
just gonna list the whole filmography at this point if we do keep going. Anyway, through it all, a lot of people were just thinking, so all the other guys in the in the Avengers, except for Hawkeye, we'll get to him, get their own movie. So when's Black Widow gonna get her own movie? Now there's a lot of corporate politics and weird stuff to get, and pay negotiations and contracts that we won't get into because we don't know a lot about that kind of stuff.
We don't really pay attention to that kind of detail, but basically they had to renegotiate Scarlett's contract in order to get her a solo movie.
But now here it is, a solo movie, a solo Black Widow movie. That movie.
Now the thing about this is, and 2 years ago, Avengers Endgame came out. And a little something happened to Black Widow 2 years ago in Endgame. Oh yeah, she died.
So the question kind of became, how do you do a Black Widow movie when the main character is dead? Now, the obvious answer is you can make it a prequel to Avengers Endgame and Infinity War.
And that's what they did. This movie is set between Civil War and Infinity War, and it is also kind of a origin story for the character in a way.
Which basically going to fill in some of the gaps that we only got glimpses of in Avengers: Age of Ultron.
A lot of the stuff we have is that we have Florence Pugh from Fighting With My Family and Little Women coming in to play this sort of sister character for her. We have Rachel Weisz playing this mother character for her, not her mom, but a character that is kind of a mother to her. And in probably the Marvel character who...
The only time an actor has been cast to play a Marvel superhero, and they were like, you know what? You can keep your dad body.
In fact, can you get more dad body for us?
So David Harbour getting a little bit of redemption for the 2 superhero movies he's made so far that didn't do so well.
This is actually the 4th, depending on how you count, is the 4th super comic book movie he's done in 10 years.
Because he was the villain. Spoiler alert. He was the villain in Green Hornets. He was a easy to forget supporting player in Suicide Squad, and he was Hellboy in the equally easy to forget Hellboy. Also, he was the guy. Also, I think he kissed Heath Ledger in a movie. That's something. Or was it Gyllenhaal?
That was he kissed one of the guys from Brokeback Mountain in a movie.
Specifically Brokeback Mountain.
Yeah, that's not important. But David Harbour obviously has become a huge name because of Stranger Things. We've loved Stranger Things. We think he is personally is awesome in it.
So it's just nice to give him this kind of role that hopefully will get people to that. I'm not going to talk like this is somehow going to be his breakthrough role, because obviously the guy's got credits to spare, but hopefully this is going to be a big blockbuster role so that he can get a nice big paycheck. And who doesn't want David Harbour to get a nice big paycheck? He's like a big lovable teddy bear that could probably kill you in one punch.
Yes. We also have Ray Winstone in a sort of villainous role, but the big villain.
Ray Winstone in a villain role?
I know.
It must be a day ending in Y.
I know. What kind of range can he show with this? Also, but the big villain role that has been shrouded in mystery throughout the entire ad campaign for this, Taskmaster.
Yes, Taskmaster is basically being framed like the Winter Soldier in the advertisements. It's basically being framed like they did the Winter Soldier in Captain America: The Winter Soldier. The difference being, because Taskmaster has more than one identity in the comics, we have no clue who this is. We have no clue who is playing them. We have no clue who is behind this mask. We have no clue anything about them. All we know about Taskmaster is the specific set of abilities that they have. Basically, they can pick up any kind of skill just by getting a clear view of watching you do it once. Which just seems like an awesome power to bring to the screen, and also something that they obviously deliberately waited a decade to bring it to the screen, so that we had some established movements for certain characters. pick up any kind of weapon, any kind of kung fu move, or even something like learning to play an instrument just by watching someone do it once. So obviously they are geared up with the powers of the move sets of various superheroes from throughout the MCU, and that's kind of something that's going to be fun to think about when it comes to the fact that they are going to be the heavy in a movie about one of the two characters in the original Avengers movie that's only power was I have no powers, and yet here I am standing amongst basically gods.
Yes. So we're finally going to see this, guys. I'm very excited to be seeing a Marvel movie in theaters again, mostly because of the post-credit scene. I'm going to be entirely honest. When they were announcing Phase 4, this was probably my least anticipated film, and now it's an even more anticipated film just because it's been over 2 years since we saw a Marvel movie in theaters.
So let's go. Let's enjoy a Marvel movie.
Yeah! Right. So we just got out, and it felt really good to be sitting waiting for a post-credit scene there.
Yeah. So let's talk a bit about this, about how this movie is so good.
It's good. It's not the best the MCU's ever cranked out,
but there's a lot to just legitimately love about it. So let's go with it. First of all, Kate Shortland, the director, an Australian indie director who has so few major credits to her name that we didn't really know her name until she was announced to be directing this.
Apparently Scarlett Johansson personally approached her to direct the movie.
But she did such a good job that from frame one, this movie is not shot like a traditional Marvel movie.
And based on what we're getting in the next couple months, for the rest of the year with our Marvel movies, including Academy Award winner Chloe Zhao with The Eternals, I think we're going to be having an interesting. Phase 4 is going to be probably one of the most interesting looking phases for Marvel.
But basically, second one, we get everything shot differently. The entire first 10 minutes of the movie is shot basically like a Norman Rockwell painting.
Yeah, we get but we get these amazingly shot action sequences, and we get these amazing, insanely cool shots, just talking bits where it's like where we just get in there close with the camera and kind of hang out with them for a little bit.
Granted, by the third act, we're back to standard Marvel. Let's do what we do best and make the cool, quippy action sequences with heavy CGI. That's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
But for the times when we get a chance to actually for the times when it's like we need these characters are all sitting around, they're just having a conversation. We need to do something to make this look interesting. It looks interesting. We go handheld. We go with different lighting. We have all this kind of just magical lighting and movement to it.
Yeah, and that's another thing is that this is a lot of just sitting and talking.
It's surprising. It's a spy movie, and and they take the opportunity to shoot it a lot like a spy movie. I mean, I'm pretty sure James Bond, at least certain elements of James Bond, were an influence, particularly because there is a scene where Natasha literally sits down and watches a James Bond movie.
Yeah, but it's a globe-trotting movie. We're all over the place. It's this big epic feel while also feeling small and condensed. And a lot of it has to do with these characters.
I mean, what can we say about Scarlett Johansson that hasn't already been said by a million critics the world over for the last 10 years? She's done this so many times that she could basically play the role in her sleeve. But
in fact, to the point that it took so long for them to actually make this movie that she actually basically just did did this movie twice over without Marvel at all.
But we don't really need to talk about Scarlett Johansson because it's a given that she's going to be good in the part. She's got the physicality. She knows the character inside and out, out through everything that the writers have given her over the years, and she knows what she's doing. Let's talk about the new people.
Yes. First up, Florence Pugh as Elena.
Now, Now there's just something about her that plays so well. The fact that she actually learned that, like most Marvel actors, she learned at least a little bit of the fighting scenes in order to play it out.
And she has this presence. She is very different personality-wise than Natasha.
Whereas Natasha is very much a spy, through and through. Who Yelena has this thing about her where she never kind of got a real childhood, so she's still kind of like a bratty little sister to Natasha.
Yeah. With Rachel Weisz, we get some interesting stuff going on with her character. She is not in the movie. She's probably out of the main people that we have, she's probably in the movie the least.
But we still get a lot out of her, and she's got a farm full of pigs. Pigs. Our sister would love this movie just based on the pigs.
Yes.
And finally, last but most certainly not least, the man who steals every single scene he is in, David Harbour.
Like, he is eating it up. He is doing the whole Russian stereotypes thing.
He is practically saying, let's go capture moose and squirrel.
He is like full. He knows that this is probably his last chance to do a big comic book movie, and he is eating his heart out the entire time.
And it's just they give him some of the best jokes. They give him a lot of the best they give him at least one of the best action sequences in the movie. And let's face it, David Harbour has charisma to burn, and they use every second of it to build this character, to make the character of Alexei into just the Russian Captain America.
Yes. We also have the character of Taskmaster, and they are so incredibly interesting with the way that they are portrayed on screen.
The new character origin is fantastic. It's fun. It gives a lot to be. It gives a bit of intrigue, though I will say that I kind of figured it out a little bit before they actually made the reveal.
Yeah, twist is not 100% well executed. Some stuff.
But then again, we're not going to be one of those guys who's like, well, I fided it out, and I'm a complete moron. So clearly, the twist was sucked because the fact that they built it up, that they didn't build it up in the movie shows that it wasn't supposed to be huge.
Yeah. One thing I will say though is that this movie is a lot of build up.
Yeah.
It is a little slow at times. We do seem to spend a lot of time in certain places.
Though the big thing is that this is not just a Natasha Romanoff movie that we've been waiting for a long time. This is also kind of the introduction movie to Yelena as potentially the new Black Widow in the upcoming MCU when we finally get back to the present.
But it's a basic. It feels like a good way to say goodbye to Natasha. With Endgame, this isn't a good accompanying piece, just a little epilogue, prologue kind of thing to say, she's here. This is where she was.
This is what she did this is one of the things she did in the time between. There's still a gap, but not a gap that we can't fill in our own imaginations.
Yeah, and there's there's definitely a future set up.
And for the record, I don't want to be the guy to rain on people's parade, but if you were hoping for a cameo from a certain dead Avenger, just lower your expectations.
If you were hoping for a lot of any cameos that you didn't know in advance, you're gonna get a little.
There's cameos. There's cameos. Don't be fooled. It's a Marvel movie. So obviously there's cameos. But if you were expecting certain ones, then just lower your expectations because otherwise you'll probably be disappointed.
Yeah, we have a certain character who was introduced who was supposed to be introduced to here,
but we knew it. But because the schedule got moved around and things got put out beforehand, it got moved around a little. They came in before they already got introduced. Granted, I think that the introduction they got already was way better than the one that they would have gotten here. So we had fun with it. It's just that
I kind of wish we could have gotten the introduction the way it was meant to be, where we saw this first and then the other part after.
But yeah, but Black Widow, Marvel. I don't know how many other ways to say Marvel does it again, but Marvel does it again. They made another great movie.
And we got 3 more movies coming out this year alone.
Basically, Marvel movies are made. Marvel movies just come off the assembly line, and they're behind well built and in a way that makes people happy with what they got. Now, and whether or not you believe they're cinema, they are cinema. By even the basest of definitions, they're cinema. By even the basest definitions of cinema, this video is cinema. Title drop. but it doesn't even. But even then, that doesn't even matter, because when the product is this good, people are gonna keep coming back. And
granted, once again, this is not the best Marvel has shelled out.
It drags a little in the middle, but I think the relationships between Natasha and her surrogate family sort of save it. Really, really save it. Plus, of course, action sequences. Ray Winstone is just kind of ridiculous it's just kind of ridiculously awesome as a villain. Once again, a role that he could probably play in his sleep.
Yeah, but Phase 4 has already kicked. But this is not technically the way we're kicking off. We've kicked off Phase 4. We've obviously already done that, but now this is a good way to move into Phase 4, especially in about 2 months, when we kick off the present day-ish Marvel proper.
But that's not what we're talking about next. So be sure to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and don't forget to tune in next time when we welcome to the jam. Bye.
Bye.